The morning sun filtered through our kitchen window as I pour my coffee, completely unaware that this Mother's Day would be the day I discovered just how expendable I'd become to my own family. My name is Robert. I'm 68 years old, and until that moment, I thought I was living the retirement dream with my loving wife Sarah and our successful 35-year-old daughter Jessica. But sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones plotting your destruction. The setup: peaceful morning before the storm. I'd worked 43 years as a construction foreman, saved every penny, and built what I thought was a secure future for my family. Our house was paid off. We had substantial savings, and my life insurance policy was worth $1.2 million. I was proud of what I'd accomplished. I was also completely naive about what it had made me worth dead. If stories of family betrayal and fathers fighting back grip you, hit that subscribe button now, because this story will shock you to your core. The doorbell rang at exactly 10 a.m. Sarah was still in her robe, reading the newspaper on the back porch, enjoying her lazy Mother's Day morning. I shuffled to the front door, expecting maybe a flower delivery, or perhaps our neighbor Mrs. Chun with her usual Sunday morning gossip. Instead, I found a delivery man holding an elegant white gift box about the size of a shoebox, wrapped with a beautiful silver ribbon. The return address read, "From Jessica, with all my love. Happy Mother's Day, Mom." Beautiful morning for Mother's Day. The delivery man smiled, handing me the package. Someone's lucky to have such a thoughtful daughter. If only he knew how thoughtful Jessica really was. The innocent-looking gift arrives. I carry the box toward the back porch, calling out, "Sarah, honey, Jessica sent you something special for Mother's Day." Sarah looked up from her paper, her face lighting up with that maternal joy that only a mother can show when receiving something from her child. Oh, how sweet of her. She's been so busy with her new job. I wasn't expecting anything. That should have been my first red flag. Jessica's new job, the one she'd been mysteriously vague about for the past 3 months. The one that suddenly had her asking detailed questions about our insurance policies, our will, and whether I'd updated my beneficiaries recently. As Sarah reached for the box, something made me pause. Call it intuition, call it years of construction work, making me cautious about things that didn't look quite right, but something about that package bothered me. The weight was wrong. Too heavy for jewelry, too light for books. And there was something else, a faint chemical smell that reminded me of the industrial solvents we use on construction sites. My nose had been trained by decades of working with dangerous materials, and every instinct I had was screaming that something was off. "Wait," I said, pulling the box back. "Don't open it." Sarah laughed, thinking I was being playful. "Oh, come on, Robert. What got into you? It's just a Mother's Day gift from our daughter." Our daughter. The words hit me differently now. When had Jessica stopped being just my daughter and become something we had to negotiate? Father's instinct kicks in. Something's not right. "Sarah, I'm serious. Something doesn't feel right about this." I held the box up to my ear and listened carefully. No ticking, thank God for that, but there was something else. A faint sloshing sound, like liquid moving around inside. My wife's expression shifted from amusement to concern. "Robert, you're scaring me. What do you think is in there?" I didn't want to voice my suspicions. I didn't want to believe that the little girl I'd taught to ride a bike, the teenager I'd stayed up all night helping with college applications, the woman I'd walked down the aisle just 7 years ago, could be capable of what I was starting to suspect. But the evidence was mounting. 3 months ago, Jessica had started visiting more often. She'd ask about my health, my medications, whether I'd been feeling tired lately. She'd made comments about how difficult it must be for Sarah to take care of an aging husband, how much easier life would be with financial security. And there were the questions about my life insurance. "Dad, when was the last time you reviewed your policy? Are you sure Mom will be taken care of if something happened to you?" At the time, I'd been touched by her concern. Now, I was terrified by her planning. I examined the box more carefully. The ribbon was tied in a specific way. Not Jessica's usual haphazard bow, but something more deliberate. The return address label was printed, not handwritten like Jessica always did. And that smell was getting stronger. "Sarah, I need to go inside and call 911. "What? Robert, that's ridiculous. You can't call the police because you don't like how a gift box smells." but I was already moving away from her, holding the box at arm's length. In construction, we had a saying, better to look like a fool than be a dead hero. I wasn't taking any chances. The call to 911. Things get serious. 911, what's your emergency? This is Robert Matthews at 847 Maple Street. I need the police and maybe the bomb squad. I have a suspicious package that I believe might contain hazardous materials. Sarah was staring at me like I'd lost my mind, but I kept talking. The package is supposedly for my daughter, but several things about it don't match her usual behavior. There's a chemical smell, unusual weight distribution, and given some recent concerning conversations about my life insurance, I'm worried this might be an attempt to harm me. Even as I said it, I could barely believe the words coming out of my mouth. Was I really suggesting that my own daughter was trying to kill me? The dispatcher took my information and said units were en route. While we waited, I made another call, one that would prove to be the most important decision I'd make that day. I called my brother Mike, a retired police detective who lived 3 states away but still had contacts in the force. Mike had always been suspicious of Jessica's sudden interest in my finances, especially after her divorce left her with substantial debts. Mike, I need you to run a background check on Jessica. I think she might be involved in something dangerous. What's going on, Rob? I explained the situation quickly. Mike was quiet for a long moment before saying, I'll make some calls. But Rob, are you prepared for what we might find? I wasn't. Nobody could be prepared for what we were about to discover. Within 15 minutes, our quiet suburban street looked like a crime scene. Police cars, an ambulance, and a hazmat unit surrounded our house. Our neighbors gathered on their lawns, whispering and pointing. The hazmat team carefully examined the package with specialized equipment. After what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes, the team leader approached me. Sir, your instincts were correct. This package contains a chemical compound that, when opened and exposed to air, would have created toxic fumes. In an enclosed space like your porch, it could have been fatal within minutes. Sarah's face went white. She grabbed my arm so tightly I could feel her nails through my shirt. That's not all, the officer continued. The device was designed to look like an accident. The chemicals would have dissipated quickly, making it appear as though you'd suffered a heart attack or respiratory failure. If you hadn't called us, and if we hadn't been able to test immediately, it might have worked. The poison plot revealed, but there's more. Detective Maria Santos took over the case. She was a sharp woman in her 40s who looked like she'd seen every kind of human betrayal possible. She interviewed us separately, asking detailed questions about Jessica's recent behavior, her financial situation, and her access to our home. While we talked, Mike called back with information that made my blood run cold. Rob, you need to sit down for this. Jessica isn't just in debt. She's in deep with some very dangerous people. She owes $180,000 to a loan shark in the city. The payments are 3 months behind, and her deadline was this week. But her job dash. There's no job, Rob. She's been lying to you. She was fired from her marketing position 6 months ago. She's been living off credit cards and borrowing against your life insurance policy as collateral for loans. The room started spinning. That's impossible. You can't borrow against someone else's life insurance. You can if you have power of attorney. Rob, check your legal documents. I think you're going to find some forged signatures. Detective Santos returned just as I was processing this information. Mr. Matthews, we need to search your home office. We have reason to believe there may be forged documents related to your insurance and estate planning. What they found in my filing cabinet changed everything. Forged power of attorney documents, life insurance policy changes that I'd never authorized, bank account access forms with signatures that looked like mine but felt wrong when I studied them closely. Jessica had been systematically positioning herself to inherit everything while making it look like I was preparing for my own demise. But the most shocking discovery was in my computer's email history. Emails I'd never seen before, sent from my account to various insurance companies, updating my health information and suggesting I was suffering from depression and had made comments about ending it all. Jessica hadn't just planned to kill me. She'd planned to make it look like suicide, ensuring that even if the insurance company investigated, they'd find a paper trail supporting her claims. The scope of betrayal expands. It's not just murder, it's elaborate fraud. How long has this been going on? Sarah whispered, staring at the documents spread across our dining room table. Detective Santos looked grim. Based on what we're seeing here, at least 8 months. This was a carefully planned operation. Your daughter has been building a case for your mental instability while positioning herself as your concerned caregiver who would inherit everything when you inevitably took your own life. Sarah started crying. Not just tears, but deep, gut-wrenching sobs that seemed to come from her soul. She was my baby. She was my little girl. How could she do this to us? I wish I had an answer. I wish there was some explanation that could make sense of how the child we'd raised, loved, and sacrificed for could coldly plan our destruction for money. Time to confront Jessica, but she's not alone in this. Detective Santos arranged for Jessica to be brought in for questioning. They didn't tell her why, just that there had been an incident involving a package sent to our home, and they needed her to help clear up some confusion. I insisted on being there. Against the detective's advice, I wanted to look my daughter in the eyes when she was confronted with what she'd done. Jessica arrived at the police station looking concerned and confused. Or at least, she was an excellent actress. She hugged me tightly, asking if I was okay, if Mom was hurt, what had happened with the package. I'm so sorry, Dad. I have no idea what could have gone wrong. I just wanted to send Mom something special for Mother's Day. I ordered it online from a boutique gift company. Did something break? Was someone hurt? She was good. If I had known better, I would have believed every word. Detective Santos laid out the evidence methodically. The chemical analysis of the package, the forged documents, the suspicious insurance inquiries, the fabricated emails about my mental health. Jessica's performance cracked slowly, like ice beginning to thaw. First denial, then confusion, then anger. This is ridiculous. Dad, you can't seriously believe I would hurt you. I love you. Everything I've done has been to help the family. Help the family by killing me. I asked quietly. I wasn't trying to kill you. The words exploded out of her before she could stop them. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Detective Santos leaned forward. What were you trying to do, Jessica? And that's when my daughter revealed the full scope of her betrayal. Jessica's confession begins, but the truth is worse than imagined. I needed you to get sick, not die. Just sick enough that Mom will be scared. Sick enough that you want to update your will and make sure everything was in order. The chemicals weren't supposed to kill you. They were supposed to make you feel weak and dizzy, maybe have some breathing problems. So, I think I was having health issues. And then Mom would insist you see a doctor, and maybe the doctor would find something wrong, and then you'd naturally want to prepare for the worst, and you'd be right there to help me organize my affairs. Jessica started crying, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of frustration that our plan had failed. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Do you know what happens to people who can't pay back the kind of money I owe? They don't just take your car or your house, Dad. They hurt you. They hurt people you care about. So you decided to hurt us first. I was trying to save us all. If something happened to you, naturally from health problems, then Mom would be financially secure. I could pay off my debts, and everyone would be safe. The casual way she discussed planning my demise was almost more chilling than the act itself. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of desperation. This was calculated, cold-blooded manipulation by someone who had learned to see her own father as nothing more than a financial asset to be liquidated. But Detective Santos wasn't finished. Jessica, we know you didn't do this alone. The chemical compound used in that package isn't something you can just order online. Someone with expertise helped you. Who was it? Jessica had help. The conspiracy goes deeper. Jessica's lawyer arrived before she could answer, but the investigation had already uncovered the truth. Phone records showed extensive communication between Jessica and someone named Marcus Rivera, a man with a criminal history involving insurance fraud and chemical poisoning. But the real shock came when they dug deeper into Marcus's background. He wasn't just some criminal she hired. Marcus Rivera was Sarah's nephew, her sister's son who had been struggling with addiction and legal problems for years. Sarah had been sending Marcus money regularly, trying to help him get back on his feet. Jessica had used that connection to recruit him into her scheme, convincing him that helping her would solve both their financial problems. The betrayal wasn't just vertical, daughter against father. It was horizontal too, family members conspiring together against the person who had been supporting them all. When Detective Santos presented Sarah with this evidence, my wife's world completely shattered. My sister's boy, the child I helped to raise when she was struggling, he helped Jessica try to murder you. The investigation revealed that Marcus had been planning similar schemes against other elderly family members. He developed a method for creating chemical compounds that would cause symptoms mimicking natural health crises. Jessica's plan for me was apparently part of a larger operation targeting older relatives with significant assets. They'd been so confident in their system that they'd already begun planning their next target. My elderly neighbor, Mr. Peterson, whose wife had recently passed away, leaving him alone with a valuable property and substantial savings. This was just the beginning. Other elderly victims were planned. The scope of the betrayal was breathtaking. This wasn't just about Jessica's gambling debts or Marcus's drug problems. They'd created a systematic approach to murdering elderly family members for inheritance money. They have files on potential targets, detailed financial research, and contingency plans for multiple scenarios. In Jessica's apartment, police found a notebook with my daily routines, my health information, lists of my medications, and even sketches of her home layout. She'd been studying me like a science project, learning my habits and vulnerabilities so she could exploit them. But perhaps the most chilling discovery was a recording device she'd planted in our home phone. For months, Jessica had been listening to our private conversations, learning about our concerns, our fears, and our plans. She knew exactly how to manipulate us because she'd been eavesdropping on our most intimate moments. Every time I'd expressed worry about my health to Sarah, every time we discussed our wills or our finances, every conversation we thought was private, Jessica had been listening, taking notes, and planning how to use that information against us. The legal system versus family loyalty, Sarah's impossible choice. The legal proceedings that followed were almost as traumatic as the original crime. Jessica was charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, and elder abuse. Marcus faced similar charges, plus additional counts related to his other planned victims. But the hardest part wasn't dealing with the legal system. It was dealing with Sarah's broken heart. My wife was caught between her love for our daughter and the undeniable reality of what Jessica had done. She visited Jessica in jail, trying to understand how we'd failed as parents, where we'd gone wrong, what signs we'd missed. Jessica, even facing life in prison, continued to manipulate her mother. She claimed she'd been coerced by Marcus, that she'd never really intended to hurt me, that she'd been desperate and hadn't known what else to do. "She's still my baby," Sarah would say, crying herself to sleep night after night. Maybe if we get her good lawyers, maybe if we can show the court that she was under pressure from those loan sharks. I understood Sarah's pain, but I also understood something she couldn't accept. Jessica wasn't a victim. She was a predator who happened to be our daughter. The evidence against Jessica was overwhelming. But what finally convinced Sarah was a conversation recorded by the police during a jail visit. Jessica, thinking she wasn't being monitored, told Marcus, who was also in custody, that she was playing the concerned daughter card with her mother and that Sarah was eating up the whole act. "The old man was always suspicious," Jessica said on the recording. "But Mom is so emotional. She'll believe whatever I tell her. I just need to keep her on my side until I can figure out how to blame everything on Marcus." When Sarah heard that recording, something inside her died. The daughter she'd been defending, making excuses for, and trying to save was coldly calculating how to manipulate her grief and love. The final betrayal. Jessica shows her true nature. "She called you the old man?" Sarah whispered after hearing the recording, like you were some stranger, some obstacle to be removed. The trial revealed even more disturbing details. Jessica had researched my life insurance policy extensively, learning about the suicide clause and the timeline requirements. She discovered that after 2 years, even suicide wouldn't void the policy. So she needed to wait until the policy was old enough to ensure payment regardless of the cause of death. She'd also been slowly poisoning me with small amounts of chemicals added to my coffee over several months, creating symptoms that would support a narrative of declining health. The dizzy spells I'd been having, the occasional nausea, the fatigue I'd attributed to aging. All of it was Jessica's preparation for the final fatal dose. The prosecution's medical expert testified that if I had opened that Mother's Day package, I would have been dead within 15 minutes. The chemicals would have caused rapid respiratory failure, and by the time paramedics arrived, it would have appeared to be a natural cardiac event brought on by underlying health issues that Jessica had been systematically creating. Justice served, but at what cost? The family will never recover. Jessica was sentenced to 25 years to life. Marcus received 20 years. Both were ordered to pay restitution, though they had no assets to seize. But the real punishment wasn't what the court imposed. It was what they'd done to themselves, to their family, and to their future. Sarah aged 10 years during the trial. The stress, the betrayal, and a loss of the daughter she thought she knew left her physically and emotionally broken. She developed anxiety attacks, couldn't sleep without medication, and jumped every time the phone rang or someone knocked on the door. Our marriage, which had survived 42 years of normal ups and downs, was strained to the breaking point. Sarah blamed herself for not seeing the signs. I blamed myself for not being more suspicious earlier. We both wondered if there was something we could have done differently, some way we could have saved Jessica from becoming the person she'd chosen to be. The financial damage was significant but manageable. We had to spend thousands on lawyers, security systems for our home, and therapy for both of us. We changed all our locks, updated all our passwords, and reviewed every financial account to ensure there were no other surprises. But the emotional damage was incalculable. How do you trust again when your own child has betrayed you so completely? How do you rebuild your sense of safety when a person who threatened you shares your DNA? The long road to recovery, learning to trust again. Friends and extended family didn't know how to react. Some were supportive, offering comfort and understanding. Others seemed to suspect that we must have done something wrong to drive Jessica to such extremes. A few had the audacity to suggest that we were being too harsh, that family is family, and we should find a way to forgive and move on. Those people didn't understand that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean exposing yourself to continued danger from someone who has proven they're willing to kill you for money. The hardest conversations were with Jessica's extended family. Cousins, aunts, uncles who'd watch her grow up and couldn't reconcile the sweet child they remembered with a woman who had tried to murder her father. Some of them blamed us. She must have been desperate, they said. No one would do something like this unless they felt they had no other choice. But desperation doesn't excuse attempted murder. Debt doesn't justify plotting your father's death. And the cold, calculated nature of Jessica's plan showed that this wasn't a moment of panic or poor judgment. It was a business decision made by someone who had learned to value money more than human life. Hard-won wisdom for other families, the signs to watch for. In the 2 years since Jessica's conviction, Sarah and I have had to rebuild our lives and our relationship. We learned some hard lessons that I want to share with other parents, especially those approaching retirement with assets that might make them targets. First, pay attention to sudden changes in your adult children's behavior. As someone who rarely called starts visiting frequently and asking detailed questions about your finances, your health, and your legal documents, that's a red flag. Love doesn't usually express itself through estate planning conversations. Second, never give anyone power of attorney or access to your financial accounts without having those documents reviewed by an independent lawyer. Not a lawyer your child recommends, not a family friend, but someone who works only for you and has no other loyalties. Third, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, investigate. If someone's story doesn't add up, ask questions. If you feel like you're being manipulated, you probably are. The people who love you should never make you feel guilty for being careful with your money or suspicious of their motives. Fourth, understand that addiction, debt, and desperation can turn people into someone you don't recognize. The child you raised with love and values might become an adult who sees you as an obstacle to their financial security rather than as their parent. Practical advice for protecting yourself and your assets. We've completely restructured our financial and legal arrangements. Our will is now held by an independent law firm, and any changes require verification from multiple sources. Our life insurance policies can only be changed with in-person verification at the insurance company's office. We've set up a trust that makes it impossible for anyone to benefit from our deaths in the short term. We installed security cameras around our property, not because we're paranoid, but because we learned that people who are willing to commit murder for money are also willing to break into your home, steal your identity, or harm you in other ways. Most importantly, we build a support network of friends and neighbors who check on us regularly. Mr. Peterson, who is apparently Jessica's next planned target, has become one of our closest friends. We look out for each other because we understand that predators often target isolated elderly people who have no one to notice when something seems wrong. The sad reality is that elder abuse by family members is more common than most people want to believe. Children who see their inheritance as their right rather than their parents' choice. Relatives who view elderly family members as resources to be exploited rather than people to be respected and protected. Life after betrayal. Finding peace and purpose. Sarah and I will never be the same people we were before that Mother's Day morning. We're warier now, more suspicious, less trusting of people's motives. But we're also stronger in some ways, more connected to each other, and more aware of what really matters. We've started volunteering with an organization that helps elderly people protect themselves from financial abuse and fraud. We share our story not because we enjoy reliving the pain, but because we hope it might help other families recognize the warning signs before it's too late. The response has been overwhelming. We've heard from dozens of families who have experienced similar betrayals. Children who stole their parents' retirement funds. Relatives who forged documents to gain control of assets. Caregivers who manipulated elderly patients in changing their wills. The pattern is always similar. Isolation, manipulation, gradual control, and then exploitation. The victims are often people who worked hard their entire lives, saved their money, and trusted their families to honor their wishes and protect their interests. But we've also heard from families who recognized the warning signs in time, who confronted suspicious behavior before it escalated to violence, who took steps to protect themselves while maintaining healthy relationships with their children. Hope and healing. It's possible to rebuild trust and safety. One of the most important things we've learned is that setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's necessary. Protecting your assets isn't selfish. It's responsible. And refusing to be manipulated by family members isn't unloving. It's self-preservation. Some family members have criticized us for destroying Jessica's life by pressing charges and testifying against her. They seem to think we should have kept quiet, handled it within the family, and given her a chance to make amends. But attempted murder isn't a family dispute. Systematic fraud isn't a misunderstanding that can be resolved with a conversation. And someone who is willing to kill you for money isn't someone who can be reformed with love and patience. Jessica made her choices. She planned carefully, acted deliberately, and showed no remorse until she was caught. The consequences she's facing are the result of her decisions, not our vindictiveness. Sarah struggles more with this than I do. Maternal love doesn't disappear just because your child tries to murder you. She still loves the little girl Jessica used to be, still grieves for the relationship they might have had, still wonders if there's something she could have done to change the outcome. But she's also learned that love without boundaries is enabling, and that protecting yourself from someone who wants to harm you isn't the same as abandoning them. The ultimate lesson: family bonds are precious, but not sacred when they become dangerous. If there's one message I want to leave with everyone who hears this story, it's this: your life has value beyond what it's worth to other people. Your safety matters more than family harmony. Your right to live peacefully in your retirement isn't negotiable, even with your children. Don't let guilt, love, or social pressure make you vulnerable to people who see you as a source of money rather than as a human being deserving of respect and protection. Blood relationship doesn't give anyone a right to abuse, manipulate, or harm you. At the same time, Don't let fear and suspicion poison all your relationships. Most children genuinely love their parents and would never consider harming them. Most families can be trusted with sensitive information about finances and health. The goal isn't to become paranoid, but to become informed and prepared. Learn the warning signs of financial elder abuse. Understand your legal rights and protections. Build a network of support that includes people outside your immediate family. And trust your instincts when something doesn't feel right. Sarah and I are rebuilding our lives one day at a time. We're learning to enjoy our retirement despite what happened, to appreciate the family members and friends who have stood by us, and to find meaning in helping other people avoid the nightmare we experienced. The story ends, but the message continues. That Mother's Day gift changed everything for us. It revealed the worst in someone we loved, but it also revealed the best in ourselves and in the people who truly care about us. It taught us that survival sometimes requires hard choices, that love must be balanced with wisdom, and that protecting yourself isn't a betrayal of family values. It's an affirmation of your right to live safely and peacefully. Jessica will be eligible for parole in 25 years. She'll be 60 years old, and Sarah and I, if we're still alive, will be in our 90s. I don't know if we'll ever have a relationship with her again. I don't know if she'll ever truly understand what she did to us, to herself, and to our family. What I do know is that we survived. We're still here, still together, still fighting for each other, and for other families who might face similar betrayals. That Mother's Day morning could have been our last day together. Instead, it became the first day of a new life. Harder in some ways, but also more authentic, more secure, and more purposeful. And sometimes that's all you can ask for. The chance to keep living, to keep loving the people who deserve it, and to keep protecting yourself from those who don't. Remember, your story doesn't have to end the way someone else planned it. Trust your instincts, protect your assets, and never apologize for choosing your safety over someone else's greed, even when that's someone else's family. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, family is supposed to protect you, not prey on you. If this story opened your eyes to the reality of family betrayal and elder abuse, please subscribe to our channel for more true stories of survival, justice, and recovery. Share this video with any older adults in your life who might benefit from these warning signs, and let us know in the comments if you've experienced similar situations. Your story might help save someone else's life.